This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
Welcome back, everyone. Emotions are energy, and we experience them all the time, all day long, but it looks very different. When you were a kid, expressing your emotions was one thing in one way, and when you become an adult, it's different. And accepting the way the emotions come out is what we're going to talk about today in many different ways. This might be a release for many of us when we get to it. She's somebody that helps people with this all the time. As a counselor, working with people that deal with trauma, client-centered therapy, and so much more. Alison Weix is back with us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Really good, really good. I'm happy that we're talking about this because a lot of times we bury our emotions. It's becoming a cliche, and it's probably one of the worst things we can do. But we do it as adults because many times, right, we want to look strong,
hmm
but it's doing us a disjustice, right?
Yes. Yeah. We don't want to appear weak. We want others to think everything's kind of fine and dandy. And again, it's kind of that learned behavior of don't really let people in, don't really let people see the struggle.
Mm. A lot of it, I'm going to say, is social media because
Yeah.
we were doing this anyway. Then social media comes along, and now we're hiding our emotions even more by making people believe that we're even better than we really are. And
Yeah.
again, it's so not good.
Yes. Yeah. The perception of social media is definitely a tricky one. I like to always explain to clients how like our grandparents' generation their bubble only went as far as what they physically knew and had around them, as far as that comparison game. And now with the social media out there, like we see and compare ourselves to people who in the real world we would have no interaction.
Mm. Could you imagine if for a day we there was a filter on Facebook, IG, every platform where it filtered out all of the stuff that you were putting out there that wasn't true, and it showed exactly how you are, how you were feeling at that moment. I'm bummed out. I'm really depressed. I'm anxious. I got this medical test coming up. Blah, 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 blah. It would be a desert. Nobody would go on anymore. Um,
Yeah.
unfortunately, when you see some people express true emotion, sometimes it brings others down. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but when you're comparing it to the look, I'm on vacation, look what I got. Hey, every happy, happy, joy, joy. There's a comparison to that, that
Yep.
that that feeling. And I'm not saying that we need to be negative. I'm talking about being real when it comes to our emotions.
Yeah. You mentioned like other people kind of feeling the impact of our emotions, and that's I feel like we kind of a lot of society are these fixers. They just they want to fix anything when you're angry, sad, but to that idea of just like being seen in our emotions too. It's like think of, oh, you didn't get the job that you applied for, and this person that you're talking to about this is like, oh, like here, apply to this place or this place is looking and just providing all these solutions. And it just kind of feels icky inside because you're like, well, that's not really what I was looking for. That's not really what I wanted.
Right.
Um, but if they just kind of sat with you and was like, yeah, no, that really sucks. Like, I know how much you wanted that job. It doesn't necessarily make you feel better, but it's again that being seen and like, yeah, I really did want the job. These emotions that I'm feeling are okay.
Walking through it, like from the start to the finish of what you said, didn't get the job, but going processing the emotion is something that nowadays we don't do, right?
Yes, yeah, that's we might process it in that like we acknowledge when it comes up, but then it's immediately like, okay, I acknowledged you, so like now you just need to go away.
Fully processed.
But
Thank you.
the
Thank
full
you.
process, Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
The fully processing is when we actually sit there and um, I again kind of like, because a lot of the times my clients will be like, well, I don't want to throw myself a pity party. I don't want sympathy. I don't want, and that's kind of where I challenge the idea of like, it's okay to throw yourself a pity party. Like, it's okay to like not be okay for a little bit. Like, we don't want to live in the pity party, but like, we can acknowledge that like things right now just kind of suck.
Somebody told me once, back in the last year, that when you talk with somebody else, it's almost like you set a pity party time limit. Call it 10
Yeah.
minutes. So I didn't get that job. I call up my friend Allison. You know, I'm kind of itching about it. I really wanted it and it didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. They picked a candidate that's not even close to my qualifications and they're paying them more than I thought. Like, I'm really bummed out. I don't know what another opportunity. Spill it all, but then cut it off in a nice way, 10, 15
Yeah.
minutes or whatever the time limit. Is that reasonable?
Very much so. Again, kind of you referenced that like the allowance in childhood too, and like how many times do we allow a child to cry literally over spilled milk? Because like it's okay, yeah, we spilled the milk, it was a big thing, whatever. But then we kind of move on after the acknowledgement and we sit with those emotions. Whereas again, then when we become adults, it's all of a sudden this like we're not allowing for that same opportunity to kind of process and work through our emotions, but they're still there, they're still prevalent, they still want to be seen.
So let's talk about that. When we hold those emotions in, I I've, I like to call it the emotional backpack, where something happens and you don't fully express it and you just take it, or maybe you don't let it out at all. Open it up, throw it in the backpack. Yep, yep, man, that situation going back there. After a while, you can't even stand up because you're getting pulled back from the weight of the backpack.
Yeah.
It's it's just not a good thing to hold on to that, right?
Yeah, and that's it's not even necessarily the weight, but it's a lot of times we carry so much shame around the emotions as well. Because again, it's that I can't let people see that I'm weak. I can't open up and be vulnerable with others.
Mm.
And then we get kind of this compounding effect from the shame on top of all the emotions that we were already holding on to.
I never thought of it that way. And I only learned recently, even on a journey of studying energy and so much more. I always thought that sadness was the lowest energetic vibration. It's shame and guilt. And you just said shame. The shame that we have of even holding on to something, an emotion, didn't get the job, and you just hold. What do you have? You really, and even in that hypothetical situation, you
Yeah,
have shame. They didn't like me.
yeah,
They didn't pick me.
yeah,
If you feel shame, what's wrong with me? And then come
yeah.
guilt. Oh, I should have tried harder. I should have been prepared for that interview. I should have answered that question better. Guilt, guilt, guilt.
Yep, very much so.
Mm. Let's, I have this theory. I want to pick your brain if you've ever heard this too. How young boys are sometimes kind of crazy. Like they're rambunctious, they're running around all the time. And I've experienced with my son wasn't so much that way. Um, I don't know why, but I would look at, one of my best friend's sons, like when he was 7, he was like, "Ah," and I'm like chill. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? And then I heard that many times boys are like that because from the beginning, they're told to man up. Big boys don't cry. And they're essentially told to quiet your emotions. And I've also heard that they're much more emotionally intelligent than girls are when they're younger. Girls surpass them later, a little bit later in life. Um,
Yeah.
but all that is pent up. All that emotion is pent up, and they don't know what to do with it as young boys. So that's where all that energy comes from. Have you? I heard somebody might even write a book about that. Have you ever heard of that? And what are your thoughts?
I've not heard of that exact theory, but definitely very similar ones. And yeah, it's just kind of again, it's when we don't allow for that emotional outlet, we just kind of get this piling on and this compounding effect of emotional guilt and shame. And that's where, again, like you said, like the first 6 years of a child's life are kind of the most important for learning that emotional intelligence, for learning how to kind of handle our emotions. Um, and so I always, even with my own children, even with conversations with my husband, I always remind him like he's got the rest of his life to learn his ABCs. Right now, the most important thing for him to be learning is that emotional regulation. Um, and that's again kind of male, female, doesn't matter. Really just allowing those emotions to be seen when they need to be.
We need you in every school. Seriously, they don't teach that.
You know,
The focus is on, ABC and all of the academic stuff, but that is never taught. And I remember um, my youngest is 17. I remember when they were in elementary school and there was one teacher and she got flack for it. So, you're
mhm.
talking,
Yeah,
like 11, 12 years ago, whatever. She got flack for it because she would meditate with kids once a week or do yoga or something like that. And because she was a yoga teacher outside of school, kind of a side thing that she enjoyed, and that was her life. And in the beginning, that people would call her out on it. No, we're just taking it's quiet time. We're going to think about things and why don't we do more of that in schools now?
that's a great question. And I mean, here in the Midwest, I feel like we are a special breed, just kind of 10, 15 years behind everybody else. But
I don't want to, I don't
it
want
very
to,
much so is,
I don't want to say that, but honestly, it's almost as if that is the perception. I guess
yep.
perception may be reality.
Yeah, and that's where it's kind of, I feel like, again, just that social comparison, again, of this, a lot of times parents, and it's a lot of their own guilt, shame, insecurities that come out and then they project it onto their kids of like, you need to be smart, you need to do all these things. And that's even if a teacher is like, hey, we struggled a little bit emotionally, they had kind of a rough day. All of a sudden, parents have this response of like, oh my gosh, now my child's being a burden on this teacher. Like, I need to fix something, I need to do something, but it's nothing really needed to be done. The child just had a rough day.
So let's say somebody comes before you on a counseling therapeutic level, and they're having challenges, maybe with emotions, they're going through maybe a life change, divorce, whatever it might be. There's a lot to process there emotionally and all different levels, not just the
Yeah.
the divorce situation. Now you have animosity potentially. You have dealing with children, on. What's your recommendation to them to work through all of that?
Goodness. Um, Honestly, it's a lot of take it day by day. Bad days are okay. Um, that self-acceptance piece of like, you're not going to get over it in a set timeline. Things aren't just going to, get better the next day. Um, there's also the connection piece too. And that's again where a lot of times we have a lot going on in our life and we don't want to necessarily like spew it out onto other people. And so we harbor it all in. Um, and that's kind of where problems start to collect because we need the connection and support from other people. Whether that's literally just seeing us emotionally or like actually physically providing us help and assistance. We definitely need that connection with
Does this all come back to, and I'm trying to think about this and process this, do emotions come back to one thing and feeling safe? We always want to feel safe, no matter what, from the beginning. Um, are we feeling emotional because we're not feeling safe?
yeah. That's even people talk about like the fight, flight, freeze, fawn responses, and that's our brain, our bodies are literally just wired for keep us alive, keep us safe. Um, like at the very core biological level, that's all that we want to do. And that's, yes, when things come up, it's because I'm not safe right now. I'm feeling insecure right now. I like there's something in us that is not.
Because every I'm trying to think of scenarios in my mind where emotions may come up, but even like in the divorce situation, you could break down the different components that one may go through. And, first one, you're with somebody for a long time. Now you're not. So now there's a fear, safety, of being alone. Then you have the financial aspect. Well, I'm going to lose a lot of money or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Then the kids, you don't feel that you're maybe doing what you should be doing, whatever it might be to support them. And you have a fear of not being a good parent. I'm going very hypothetical how it could all come back in that funnel, the fear funnel. The
Yeah.
fear funnel comes back down to the same exact thing in just pretty much every circumstance.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and that's like you said, like it's funneling down, but even as we funnel down, there's still, multiple different areas. Because like with the divorce example, it's another one where grief often comes up where, especially if you're not the partner that necessarily wanted the divorce. And so it's kind of this grief around what you did plan for your life, what you did, um, your hopes and dreams. And then, yeah, you mix kids in there and it's okay, now I don't have a partner in this anymore. Like I'm kind of solo parenting this. Like this is a new adventure. This is not necessarily what I saw.
Hmm. Is all right when we talk about fear, and you just mentioned guilt, and that's all tied in there. Um, I've used these three statements, and it's been very impactful. When you're in a situation like that, I don't know if you've ever heard this. Um, you just repeat this. I am not my thoughts. I am not my emotions. I am safe in this moment over and over again. Because a lot of
Yeah.
times what's coming up isn't really the reality. You're in the tornado of fear and you're thinking things, but they really aren't. It really is. You are safe. Most of the times we are, but we don't feel that we are.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the externalization of it, the removing it from yourself, because that kind of ties into that chain piece too of like if we're able to name like, I'm feeling angry right now, then we're not necessarily telling ourselves I'm just an angry person, and then it's all the shame and guilt of like, well, now I'm just a horrible, angry, irritable person all the time. It's nope, I'm just feeling angry right now. Like this isn't me, a fault of me. This is just something that I'm carrying right
So talking about emotion and talking about anger, is anger an emotion unto itself, or is it always other emotions? It's not its own thing. There's always something else that fuels it.
now. Yeah, I think it can sometimes be an emotion just of itself. But a lot of times it is what we call a secondary emotion, where it's kind of just, again, with that social acceptance piece, especially with little boys, a lot of times it's more socially acceptable for boys to feel and express anger than it is sadness. And so anytime they feel sad, they're like, well, I can't show that. So I'm just going to be angry instead. Little girls are kind of the opposite, where it's more socially acceptable for them to show sadness and cry than necessarily be angry. And so that's why a lot of times they go that route of like, okay, I cry for most of my emotions when I need to get a need met.
Is there other things that we can do to regulate? And it's funny, we started talking about the acceptance of emotions, and now we're talking about emotions. Um, to regulate them when you're dealing with them, cheat codes, anything like that.
As far as coping skills and regulation, I really just kind of help my clients find the best fit for them because we can throw out a million different skills, but again, our bodies kind of know what we need to do, what we want to find that balance. So we kind of naturally gravitate towards things that bring peace and ease into our life. So whether that is watching movies, listening to music, going for walks, talking about it. Some people are internalizers, some people are externalizers. But there definitely are a lot of those online, like you can find the breathing skills, the box breathing. Um, there's like a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 where you find 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can touch, and 3 things that you can hear, something like that. You kind of go through the senses, really just kind of bringing yourself to that moment of kind of that mindfulness and grounding. Um, but again, it's not a one size fits all cheat code for people, and it's
Mm.
you're most likely already doing coping skills. You just don't necessarily know that they are coping skills.
Gotcha. And it can evolve. Like what worked for you maybe a couple of years ago. We're always changing, we're always growing, or should
Yeah.
be. And other things may come up. But does it really come back to like the 5 4 3 2 1 thing with your senses brings you to the moment? Because a lot of times the emotion is based on something that happened or something maybe you're anticipating, i.e., keeping yourself safe. Is it all of this? Is it really coming back to being in the now?
Yes, very much so.
Mhm.
So I think of that like depression anxiety scale, where when you're feeling super anxious, it's bringing yourself back to the moment versus like depression a lot of times is living in that past, those previous events. And so it's bringing yourself up. Um, and so, but yes, a lot of it is just here, now, in presence, um, kind of acknowledging that safety.
That I don't know if I revealed to you, but in my journey when I had different things going on, met somebody just out of nowhere. I think, and I truly believe they showed up at that moment just to deliver this message, and we remained, friends and close for a little while. They literally said, "Why don't you live in the moment?" And I had no idea what they were talking about. You live in the past, you live in the
Yeah,
future. You don't live in the
yeah,
moment. Still, I never got it. It took me months to really like, oh, I'm going to say, and
yeah,
I'll take that back. It took me years to really eventually get it, where that is the sweet spot. That is the answer to all of your challenges. It really is. Because if you take this second right here, there's nothing wrong. Slice this one here.
mm-mm,
What's bad? Like, yeah,
right,
life gets in the way. You have things going on, financial
mhm,
responsibility, medical stuff, all of that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Deal with it when you need to deal with it. But if you're right here, I don't see anything wrong with this moment. It's perfect.
right, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
it. But you know what? It took me years to figure that out. You can help somebody with that very quickly. How do we
yeah.
connect with you, Allison? What's the best way?
I have a website, etherealembracecounseling.com, or else you can email me at allison.wix@etherealembracecounseling.com.
And it's Allison.Wix.
Yes.
Okay. And that, by the way, that's AL, just one L, ALISON.WEIX.
Yeah.
Thank you for today. And emotions are everything. We're dealing with them like literally 24/7. Even when we're sleeping, our subconscious is probably processing emotions of the day or ones that we're anticipating. So really impactful talk today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks. We'll catch up soon. We'll be right back.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.